Hey. Happy Valentine's to everybody. Happy Valentine's. Happy Monday. If you're on here, please get those likes up. Tag anybody on this discussion who you think may find it interesting. I'm going to keep this one pretty fast. So I do have somewhere to be tonight, but I wanted to talk about it. So again, thank you for joining me today, this happy Monday. I hope you guys are enjoying your Valentine's Day or your Monday if you don't celebrate or don't honor this day. But yeah, I wanted to talk about real quickly, is Valentine's Day the worst day? Is it the worst day? Again, if you're here, get those likes up, tag anybody, share this with somebody who you think may find it interesting. So many of you guys know that Future dropped this video I think over Valentine's Day weekend with Kevin Samuels, and it's basically called Worst Day, where he's talking about Valentine's Day for him is the worst day because he has too many women to please, right? So he kind of goes into that whole spiel. I posed this question in my community tab a few days earlier about whether or not Valentine's Day should be canceled, whether or not Valentine's Day is worth celebrating, whether it's not worth celebrating. So it was interesting. I got a mix of comments. I seen some people who were just like, no, like you can celebrate it if you want to. It's always nice to put time or days aside to celebrate Valentine's Day. Some people were just like, nah, this is pagan. This is wrong. Like if you look at the history of it, it's all bad. Some people were like, it's just about money making. Some people were like, I'm single, I don't care. So I saw a whole mix, right? But I think one of the biggest things I wanted to touch upon is the pressure, right? The pressure that oftentimes men really in particular feel to show up and show out on this day. Many of y'all know if you're on Instagram, TikTok, whatever it may be, on Valentine's Day, like that's the day where women get to flex, right? That's the day that they get to show off whatever it is their significant other did. And so while it's supposed to be about celebrating love, it's supposed to be about, honoring your loved one in some special way. So often I think it turns into showing off. It can turn into almost a comparison of like who does what better, who gave a better gift, who gave more money. It doesn't have to be, but it oftentimes, in my humble opinion, turns into that. So that's why, I wanted to ask you guys or get your perspective on, is this the worst day? Future did a music video about it, basically saying for him it's the worst day because he just spends too much money. He got too many women to please, right? But even apart from that, even if you're not going around sleeping with all those different kind of women, you just have one woman or one person in your life. Is it still a bad day? Is it really a day where, you as a man or just in general, man or woman, that you set aside to enjoy a significant other, or it has to become about the pressure of showing up and showing out? So that's what I wanted to talk a little bit more about today. Thank you guys in the comments. I see that gynocracy. That's hilarious. Yeah, I don't celebrate Valentine's Day, too commercialized. Most men that I know take that stance, if I'm just being honest, except for maybe married men or men who've been married for a significant amount of time. You're just average guy walking around, single or not. They're like, I don't celebrate Valentine's Day. It means nothing to me. Whereas you talk to women, 99% of them are going to give you a different response. So that's not surprising to me. I see people here in the chat being like, I don't celebrate it. Thank you, Jasmine Johnson. I appreciate the compliment. Again, if you're here, get those likes up. Also, if you would like to show support to the show, you can find me on CASHAPP or VENMO, Chez, Chardé. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep this one rather fast. What I wanted to do actually is pull up this this interview that was pretty popular. I think this interview went popular maybe about 9 or 10 years ago, but it's still pretty relevant today. And it's Mark Rudolph, for those of you guys who have not heard of him. Some of you are probably familiar with him, maybe some of you are not. But he basically was telling people he was encouraging men to boycott Valentine's Day. And he got on public television and had this kind of debate with two women who identify as feminists. And I thought it was a really interesting short. It's short, but nevertheless, it's a short. Nevertheless, I think it's an interesting take on Valentine's Day and why him and I think many men today see it as a bad deal. So I'm going to play it and I'm going to share my thoughts with you on it. I'm just going to play the audio because sometimes I can get, depending upon the source, I can get weird copyright stuff. So I'm just going to play the audio for now. Let me see. Make sure you guys can hear it. Okay. So Mark Rudolph says boycott Valentine's Day. I did leave the link to this in the description box if you guys want to check it out yourself and get the audio. It's really only about like a 4-minute clip, but let's see.
It should be. Well, Mark Rudolph, the author of Man's No-Nonsense Guide to Women, is here to take on him, is Tanya Acker. And Mark, you say men should keep their wallets closed this Valentine's Day. Why?
Well, first the thing, Terry, you just right off the bat, you said as it should be, that men should spend twice as much as women. There you go. You just gave a good reason. Look, Valentine's Day is all about her. That's the first reason men should boycott it. The second is that it's expected generosity, which is not only oxymoronic, it's moronic.
So if you guys didn't hear, I'm going to try to bring the microphone close. So the woman who introduced, right, she's basically like, Mark Rudolph is saying cancel Valentine's Day because men end up spending more on women. And then she adds a little side note, as they should. So this is a woman introducing her opponent, if you will. And she's just like, his reason for canceling Valentine's Day is because men aren't supposed to spend more money. Men are supposed to spend more money. Like, why is this an issue? So it's funny, like I said, if you actually see the interview, she starts off as like, yeah, men spend more money on Valentine's Day as they should. That's what you're supposed to do. So the reason why I think that's interesting is in a post-feminist era, right, where men and women are equal, right, and there's a strive or whatever for men and women to be equal, at what point does everything really become equal? Like, what is that equality? How does that equality now look in a relationship? I shared earlier today that for me, when I think of, Valentine's Day or just celebrating love in general, love is a two-way street. And so there are things that I want to do to make my husband feel special. And there's things that he may want to do to make me feel special, but I don't have the expectation that he has to, it's all on him. It's like, I also as a woman can do things. I can do romantic things. I can do things that are going to make him happy because that's what love is. It's a two-way street. So this expectation that it is women, right? Or no, that it is women who are always on the receiving end and that men have to spend a ton of money to make women happy in Valentine's Day. I don't agree with that, but it's interesting that, like I said, out the gate in the interview, we see that tension. We see her being like, yeah, men should be spending more money on Valentine's Day. And he's saying, well, because men are spending more money on Valentine's Day, men should boycott it. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you agree with his point? Should men boycott Valentine's Day because they're spending more money than women? I don't know. If you're on here, please get those likes up. I'm going over this interview real quickly. On.
It's demanded, it's expected, it's contrived, it's commercial, it's forced, it's phony. Those are all good reasons for not doing it. There's a double standard. Women love to be capitalists at work and socialists in their social lives. And what are the two pillars of socialism? Entitlements and redistribution of wealth from men to women. So this is now, you're going to hear an outburst. You're going to hear an outburst from Tanya. And so when you hear this outburst, you'll know why men go along with Valentine's.
Okay, let's hear it then. Tanya, go. Tanya.
I don't know if this is an outburst. I'm just wondering, Mark, who broke your heart?
Okay, so there we go. He's like, this is a bad idea. Men get nothing out of Valentine's Day. It's all about them spending money. It's forced. It's commercialized. It's not authentic. It's not natural. It's not coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of obligation. This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea. It's expensive. It's useless. It's not coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of being obligated. That is not love. Bad idea. Boycott Valentine's Day. Now, it's interesting to me that her first one, because there's two women. It's two women and one man, right? One of the women, African American, she identifies as a feminist. Her first response to listening to him is, "Who hurt you? Who hurt you? You don't want to spend all your money on these women. You don't want to bend over backwards. You don't want to be obligated to do this. Who hurt you? Who hurt you?" So to me, it was funny that was her first response in hearing that. And again, to me, it's especially funny that that's her response as a feminist, as somebody who is fighting for equality really on many different aspects. Because I would think as a feminist, right, if you really want equality in every aspect, it'd be like, oh, wow, you're spending more money. No, let's make this equal. Let's make sure I'm spending this amount of money, you're spending that amount of money. Or also being like, maybe this Valentine's Day, I'm going to celebrate you. Maybe I'm going to take you out. Maybe I'm going to make you a special meal, like allowing things to be equal. But what's interesting to me is we have these two women who identify as feminists, as far as like, at least one for sure, identify as feminist, but still expect the man to be chivalrous. So that's what's been really, really, really interesting. Again, if you're on here, please get those likes up. Tag anybody on this discussion. We're talking about whether or not Valentine's Day is the worst day. Okay. Let's see.
So terribly that you've gone to this dark place. I mean, is chivalry that dead? Is it that
it's
awful to do
dead.
Something nice? Is it that awful to do something nice for somebody who you care about?
Chivalry is benevolent sexism, which is BS.
Chivalry is benevolent sexism, which is BS. Oh, this dude is hilarious. Chivalry is dead, I think, largely. And I feel like feminism killed it. Or at least some of these modern gender roles. I think they killed it. That's not to say it can't exist. Maybe within particular relationships as people deem necessary. But for the most part, chivalry is dead because there's really no need for chivalry in an aspect or a dynamic where men and women are equal and they're the same. There's no need for chivalry at that point. So if you're on here, please get those likes up. Tag anybody in the discussion, share it. We're talking a little bit about Valentine's Day, whether or not it is the worst day. I'm reviewing this quick 4-minute clip from Mark Rudolph, where he is encouraging men to boycott Valentine's Day. He is in a debate with two feminists. And it's quite interesting. Like I said, I linked to the description to this video in the description box if you want to see it for yourself. Watch the whole video. I'm just playing the audio just for copyright stuff. But it's pretty interesting. Okay, moving on.
Well, I would actually happen to disagree with you as a feminist, as an independent woman, as somebody who supports myself.
Side note: this lady speaking right now, black woman. She's a black feminist. Mark Rudolph is a white guy. So the panel is a Mark Rudolph, who's a white man, a white woman, and then a black woman. The black woman, she says that she's a feminist, so she's the one speaking right now, just for to give you.
And has for my whole life. I think it's actually nice when a man opens a door or sends a box of chocolate. And by the way, you say that this holiday is all for women. I think most men would tend to disagree. I think that when most men
would not disagree.
I think when men are gifting their lady.
So I'm curious, you know, in the comments that I got, I mean, granted, this was just my community tab, so this is not a controlled study by any way, shape, or form. But in the comments that I got, the men who commented, most of them were just like, either I'm indifferent, I don't care, or this is a bad idea. I didn't see an overwhelming amount of men on the any of the really community tabs or any of the polls that I did. I didn't see an overwhelming amount of men saying Valentine's is a great idea, let's keep it. Most of them, like I said, were against it, or they were completely apathetic. So I don't know that I buy her idea that men are over here saying, no, let's keep Valentine's Day. This is a holiday or a celebration that benefits us. I could be wrong. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I'm not seeing that. Okay, let's see.
With pricey lingerie, that's not just for the ladies. Like that's something that people can. It's something that people can enjoy mutually. I'm sorry that you don't seem to be enjoying.
So
it. That's a point, Mark.
If you watch TV, you will see that all the commercials are aimed at men. You have jewelry commercials, you have Vermont teddy bears, you have pajama brands.
So you feel like you don't get enough gifts. So you feel like you don't get enough gifts? Is that what it is?
So to be fair, on Valentine's Day, that is something. Yeah. He's right about that. The messaging, I feel like around Valentine's Day is very much geared towards men getting women stuff. Apart from that, messaging in media in general it's you know, the gynocracy, if you will, or it is gynocentric. It is focused on women. It is from a female point of view, mostly speaking to women and their feelings and their emotions. So he is right about that. When it comes to Valentine's Day, a lot of the different marketing and stuff is basically speaking to men about the different gifts to get their women. That he's spot on. And like I said, this interview was a few years ago, but I think it's still pretty relevant.
You want more gifts?
Come on. Everything you buy for Valentine's Day is overpriced. And men, you know, when you're receiving a present on Valentine's Day, you know the man is feeling forced to give it to you. So it's not really romantic.
Christmas too? Do you want to cancel Christmas as well? Because prices go up around Christmas as well. I mean, do you want to cancel that holiday?
I thought we're talking about Valentine's Day, Tanya.
What about Easter? Look, Valentine's Day
Tanya,
is one
stick to the
I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you that, yes, it's become a commercial holiday. Now, having said that, it's one time a year that we set aside to acknowledge some romance in our lives.
And what's wrong with that, Mark? What's wrong with it?
If you're only getting romance one day a year, you're not attracting very nice men.
I hope not.
So their pushback, there's nothing wrong. There's literally nothing wrong with having a day set aside to acknowledge romance and love. I agree with that. Like I said, now we can go back and forth about the origins, right, of Valentine's Day. I was looking into that, and there's a lot of different theories on that. Primary one is that it has what is it? Remnants of, I guess, Lupercalia, which was like a pagan holiday that they used to do way back in Rome, where there was all kind of sacrifices and stuff doing. They would like hit women with the hide of a goat for fertility. Like there's all this crazy stuff going on there, right? It was a rather violent and sexual holiday. So, you know, you have those pagan roots to it. And then at a particular time, you know, there's some stories that say, okay, Valentine's Day is actually about commemorating a saint. I think Saint Valentine, if I'm not mistaken, who was persecuted for marrying Christians who were in love and wanted to get married under the rule of somebody who was like against it. So, you know, there's these different historical reasons about what Valentine's Day actually is. But as far as what it means today for most women who are for it, they're just like, there is nothing wrong with having a day to celebrate a loved one. Yeah, of course, you're supposed to be doing that every single day, throughout the week, throughout the month. But the reality is most people, unless you plan it, right, unless you actually put some time on the calendar, it can be really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, the work, the chores, you know, the kids if you have kids, bills, whatever. Like it can be really easy to get caught up in just the day-to-day responsibilities. And it's good to have those days set aside to where you remind yourself, okay, let's check in with the one I love, So that's their position on it. Shout out to Eugene Steele with the 5 on the super chat. I see. Okay, first Rivet talked about women who think that if they don't make V-Day about them, it's over. Now you are talking about a man who wants to boycott it. Well, if the expectation is that Valentine's Day is going to be about the woman, period, you got to spend as much money as possible on this woman, period. Men get nothing out of it. They're obligated to drain their bank account, drain their wallet. It's obligatory. It's forced. Of course you want to boycott it. That's a bad deal. That's a bad setup, period. So from that vantage point, I'm like, yeah, don't do that. Now, me personally, and I mentioned this earlier in the post that I shared today, I feel like personally, you celebrate Valentine's Day, that could be a time where both the men and the women express their love towards one another. So it doesn't just have to be, the man spends all this money and gives her a gift. It's like she can do stuff too. She can maybe cook him a meal, his favorite meal, or buy him something that he likes, or take him on a surprise date, or I don't know. I mean, she can also reciprocate in ways and do things that she knows that he will like and that he will enjoy too. So it doesn't have to just be a one-way street. That's the way I see it. But as I mentioned before at the beginning of this conversation, unfortunately, there's a lot of women out there who do Valentine's Day can become about flexing, basically showing off what you got, what your man got you, where he took you, what day he did, how he surprised you. It can become almost more about showing off and comparing and flexing versus really enjoying the person you love. And to me, I don't think that that's healthy. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to continue this. I'm almost done with this one.
I didn't say I'm only getting it once a year.
If you're getting romance, you know what? If you're getting romance every day of the year, Tanya, then February 14th is not going to mean anything.
It's nice to have a day. It's nice to have a day that we set aside on a national. It is. Mark, you should try it. It is nice. Good.
I have a message for all men listening to me. This is a phony nonsense holiday. So when
listening,
if you feel roped in to Valentine's this year and you don't have the cojones to boycott it, here's my suggestion. On Thursday, I was with Neil Cavuto in Pebble Beach. Clint Eastwood was right in the chair. So you become Dirty Harry. When you get the bill for the restaurant, what you do is you look at it, you look at her, and you say, feeling lucky? Go ahead. Make my day. You pay.
Mark, I have a message for you. Chivalry works. Try it sometime. Okay, there's love in the air. There is still love in the air here at Cashing In.
Oh my gosh. So like I said, if y'all want to see that, it was only about a 4-minute clip, but if you want to see it, you can find the full video. I put it in the description. It was Mark Rudolph boycott Valentine's Day, and he was debating, I think, at the very least one, if not two feminists on the position. So I think I wanted to bring that up because, again, he mentioned some key points that I imagine him and many people feel, again, going back to this day becoming about feeling obligated to spend money, feeling obligated to try to create something or try to promote something that is not necessarily real or authentic, feeling the pressure that if you don't do all of these things, that you're bad, it being one-sided to a certain extent. So to me, those are all valid points. Now, I don't know if I would go as far as to say boycott the day. I think it should be personally one of those things where if you want to celebrate it or if you want to honor the person you love, there doesn't need to be the expectation that it's just all on him. There doesn't need to be the expectation that he's going to, waste half of his check just trying to get you a big gift. Because I'm like, I do agree where it's like, if that's just the one day that you express your love, or that's just the one day that you show that you have a relationship with a person, that's a problem. That is a problem. Now, if you decide that you want to set time aside on a day for whatever reason, that's cool, but it also shouldn't be about, trying to show off to other people. It shouldn't be about trying to compete with other women and the gifts that they have or the trips that they go on or whatever it is. It shouldn't be about flashing or showing off to your friends. It should really be about you and your significant other creating those moments and doing that. And with that, like I said, love is a two-way street. So if that means that you as a woman want to shower your husband with gifts or your man with gifts or do something special for him, that's okay too. That's okay too. Like I said, love is a two-way street. So you can do things that he may like. You can get him gifts that he may like if he likes gift, or if he just likes, if he has a favorite meal, maybe you take the time out to create his favorite meal. You know what I mean? If he likes you in a certain dress, maybe you wear that special dress. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like it can be as big or little. It could be something sentimental. Maybe you write him a poem or a song. Like, be creative. But again, I think the expectation that it has to be all this money spent, it has to be only the men doing it, and it has to be obligatory, that is a bad deal. And I'm like, anybody should boycott something that is like that. But to me, if it's something about two people who are honestly showing their love for one another, it's not about the fanfare. It's not about necessarily trying to show off or compare. To me, I see no problem with that. Again, if you're on here, please get those likes up. Shout out to, let's see what we got here, to Johnny K. Shout out to Johnny K with the 10 on the super chat. I see, I guess inflation doesn't exist to women on Valentine's Day. Heck, I'll put a ring and put her on my will on a female that pays for dinner during an economic crisis. You said, I will put her on my will and put a ring in her finger if she pays for dinner during an economic crisis. That's hilarious. Now, to be fair, it is inflation. So, and I've talked about this in different videos where it's like, it's curious to me how as inflation rises and we hear all these reports, whether you think they're valid or not, or whether you agree with their analysis or not, nevertheless, there's reports out there talking about, hey, there's a labor shortage. There's these jobs that people that wanted to come into. So it's curious with all that going on, right? Certain stores there's shortage of supply chain, shortage of goods coming in. It's interesting to me that with all of that, expectations and standards have not been adjusted. I don't see large femininity channels talking about, okay, here's how to live within your means, or here's how to have a great time on a budget, or here's how to level up your mind within a budget. Like, I guess I don't really see that. We see a continual emphasis on luxury, a continual emphasis on getting nice things, getting designer bags, having high-end vacations, being in high-end hotels. We see that over and over and over and over and over and over again, whether there is an inflation or not. And to your earlier point, I think that, to me, I find really interesting because, as I mentioned in previous videos, it's like, what reality are we living in? Do you not see that there are real things happening in the economy that are impacting people's ability to, you know what I mean, to live a certain way financially, period. And also, and this brings me to my larger point. Again, so I'm trying to think how I say this, because if the expectation is that, you're going to have a man that's doing all this, paying all this money, yada, 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 it's like those guys who are at that place financially, they're likely going to have their own expectation, i.e. you look good, i.e. you be healthy and in shape. Even if you think of, now this is just an anecdotal evidence, but even if you think of Future's music video and all the different women that he had in that music video, all different shades, whatever, they were all fit and they were all in shape. And they're all keeping themselves right and tight. So it's like, if you are going to have this expectation that this dude needs to be doing all this, spending all this money, he needs to be doing all this, making all this kind of money, then it's like, that's okay, that's fine. But then that means that guy may have a higher expectation on you. And that might mean that you, as far as how you look, right? As far as you being in shape and looking in shape, like, because I think what's happening is we're starting to see these standards being pushed, and men are starting to stand up and say, okay, if we accept this deal, what are we going to get? What are we going to get in return? I don't see a ton of men out there, or at least the ones in like with a large platform. I don't see a ton of them being like, nah, pay 50-50, nah, you know what I mean? You got to pay for this. You got to, I guess I don't really see that as much. I see a lot of platforms, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not deep in the manosphere like that. But from what I've seen, some of the different major platforms that are ran by men or speaking to men, a lot of them will be like, okay, yeah, we will hustle and grind and do what we got to do to try to pay for everything or handle the financial load. But now we are requiring these things. We are requiring that you keep yourself in shape. We are requiring that you be healthy and fit. We are requiring that you have good relationship skills. You be nice. So it's like we're starting to hear people actually stand up and say, okay, this is what you want, deal. This is what you got to do in return. So, and again, the reason I say that is because as these standards, if these standards for women and what we want and what we desire doesn't change, if we say we want more, fleshly stuff, for lack of a better term, more houses, bigger purses, more clothes, better clothes, bigger vacations, whatever, all this really fleshly stuff, if we want that, then we have got to be willing to know that we're going to be judged accordingly. Now, if you want grace, if you're a woman and if you want grace, if you want somebody to look at you and say, hey, you know what, I made some bad decisions when I was a little younger, so now I'm 40 pounds, 50 pounds overweight, and I'm working on it. I'm learning about having a healthier lifestyle, but I'm 5'2", and I'm a size 22. I'm working on it, but I'm a size 22. Granted, you can do that, but I'm like, if we want grace in that area as women, as far as what we're bringing to the table, and I'm just talking about once you get into like just to get in the door, dating, whatever. But if we want grace there on maybe our size or maybe how we present ourselves, then I think we should be willing also to give men grace when it comes to what they're bringing financially. This is just my opinion, y'all. But because I'm like, at the end of the day, when we start to have these high, really, really fleshly standards that don't necessarily mean anything, but if you want the nice stuff, okay, when you start to have that, there is a responsibility. And like I said, men more and more, I think, are at least vocalizing and saying, if we are going to be in that kind of setup, this is what I need in return. And if women aren't willing to lower their standards, then we have to be willing to actually live up to the standards that we want. But those are my thoughts, y'all. Those are my thoughts. So I see inflation is inevitable. Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right. Many of you guys actually, you're living this already. It's like everything has gone up. I mean, just price of gas out here is just stupid. It's like over $5. It's like, it's dumb. I go to the gas station and I'm like, this is really dumb. Like, this makes no sense. So inflation is up everywhere. And to me, that's always an interesting thing that it seems like no matter how much inflation is, it's like standards don't change. I don't know. It's a good thing. So I do want to be mindful of time because I have to wrap things up pretty soon, but I did want to share my perspective. I might have time for like one call, maybe like 1 or 2 calls, and then I got to wrap this up because I need to actually have somewhere to go. So if anyone wants to call in really quickly and drop their perspective on whether or not they think Valentine's Day. Yeah, price of food, price of everything went up. Food, I mean, gas, you see people's rent going up, you know what I mean? Price of everything went up. Now, I go to the farmer's market where I try to go and get a lot of my fresh produce there. And I'll see like little small mom and pops stuff, like their stuff is going up. It's like everywhere you go, prices are going up. So to your point, all of this, I think really should inform, or at the very least adjust our expectations and how we date. When we get into relationships, what to expect. All those things I think should be actually should be based upon the reality of what's going on right now. And to your point, if there's an inflation, you shouldn't be expecting that you're going on a first date and guys are going to be taking you out to a 5-star dinner. That's unrealistic. And that's a bad idea, period. Because if he's doing that, then he's going to want something on the first date that you might not be willing to give. But that's a side note. Either way, inflation's real. So like I said, if any of you guys want to call in, I dropped the link. I might have time for like a call or two. Other than that, I'm gonna sign off because yeah, like I said, I was gonna keep this one quick because I have somewhere to head out tonight. Let's see. Alrighty. Oh, shout out to Hakeem for the 5 in the super chat. I just saw that come through. Okay, so it looks like I have him on the. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Chez, how are you?
Ooh, looks like there's a 1 second. There's a little echo. Okay, so we're gonna have him on the.
Okay, let me. Is that better?
Let me see. Okay, I think so.
Yeah, good topic as always. And I think the long and short of this is that yeah, you raise valuable points, and just in that interaction with the clip between, and was that like on a news station where that clip took place at?
That was, I think it was on a news station, if I'm not mistaken. It was like, this clip was like 10 years ago, but I think it's still really relevant today. I actually linked to it in the description box, so if you want to go check it out there, you can. But it looks like it was on some news station because it was 2 women, and then, you know, it was a guy there, so they were kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, and then like you said, they were trying to shame him into the one was more adamant than the other, trying to shame him into saying, "Oh, why? It's for both of us." And then towards the end, there was a concession made that it's really about the women. And I think the point being too that in the sense of relationship terms, you know, there's 365 days in a year. If that one day makes that much of a importance to you, when you're thinking to leave the man, because you know the whole study goes that majority of the divorces or breakups, it's women doing this. So if you're thinking to leave the man, can he now just say, well, I did that for you during Valentine's Day, you should stay? How much does that really amount to, if anything? So
if somebody's made it up in their mind that they're unhappy, you reminding them of the good times isn't, or of a meal or a trip, that it's not going to do anything. So I say for me, if it's, obligatory, or if it starts to feel like weird pressure around it, or it's about showing off, and especially then, like, that's a bad idea. You have to go back and revisit, what does it really mean, and what are you even really doing anyways? To your point, it's like if one day is the definer of your relationship, then there probably is other bigger problems.
Yeah, other bigger problems, and then with the advent of social media, it's just gone all it's completely out of control.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you alluded to this. I think there's this comparison, is this one-upmanship that takes place where, oh, he did this so and so's friend did this for me, so it's just this unrealistic bar. And you mentioned inflation, you mentioned different factors. Is this really the deal breaker? And if it is, then how long was this relationship, if you call it that, going to last for, if this is going to be the deal breaker?
Right. Absolutely. Today I was like, I'm going to try not to be so deep onto certain platforms just so I don't get sucked in. Because like I said, all it takes is you seeing forget about friends, celebrities, because it seems like now everybody's focusing on what celebrities are doing, which is just like, y'all, they're in a completely different class. It's funny how a lot of times people will throw out lifestyles and what they deserve as lifestyles while negating class and overlooking the fact that class and access to wealth and access to certain opportunities makes a huge difference as far as what you can attain. But a lot of times those are not included in some of these discussions about what women deserve, a level up, all that, boss up, all that kind of different stuff. So
yeah. And what do you think? One other thing, I know you're not trying to be on here long, but one idea, what do you think about, what's your take on the amount of money people put towards weddings nowadays, especially considering, even though this weddings takes this a step further? So
you're saying my take on the amount of money that they spend?
Well, in this terms of expectations of Valentine's Day, because it's from the man to the woman. What do you think? What do you think the link is between this and how much people, or the woman or whomever, plans to spend on a wedding?
That's a really, really good question. Because that's one of those things that we grow up seeing as women, since we are. Some of my earliest memories, the shows that I watched were, Barbie and Ken getting married. So it's like, that is very much all interconnected. I would say personally, I don't think anyone ever goes into wedding planning being like, oh, I have to spend at least this amount of money or it's invalid. I don't think it's that. It's more, at least in my experience, my wedding and just different people that I know who've been married, it's more like, this is what I want. This is what I envision, or this is what I want, or what we want, depending upon how involved the groom is. This is what we want. And what resources do we now have to work with? So like in some situations, you may have parents who are willing to invest in that day or, give money to that day. Great. In some situations, it's just you and the groom and you guys are pulling together your own money to do it. Great. Some people go into debt doing it. I remember I worked at a $1 Million Golf Club, and I would easy. I worked weddings every weekend for like 5 years. Easy, I would see what was it, like bills for like $100,000, and that would sometimes just be for the beverages, like. But I mean, it was like ridiculous amounts of money. But also, it was $1 million, community, so people they were coming from a different class. But so I don't think anyone ever goes into it being like, oh, it has to be $5,000 at least, or it's invalid. It's more like, this is what I want, and how willing am I going to go to actually get that? So right. I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, okay, that's a fair enough point. Just wanted to hear your take on that, but
yeah,
no, but yeah, I think thanks for having me as always, and I won't hog up the line, but you stay blessed.
Yeah, you too. All right.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I think I am going to wrap this up because I need to head out. It's this question of whether or not Valentine's Day is the worst day. I will say this: if Valentine's Day is obligatory, it's about you wasting some money on, especially on a woman that you don't know if you're going to be in a relationship 2 months from now. If it becomes about comparison, that is bad news. It's just a bad idea, and it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Now, if you do decide to celebrate it, or if you do want to, honor the love that you have, I don't see anything wrong with it. And I also don't see anything wrong with women partaking in that endeavor. So like I said, if that means that you are going to, as a woman, you decide you want to get your man gifts, you want to do something special for him, maybe you cook him a special dinner, maybe you have a surprise date, maybe you create something handmade, whatever it is that's special to him, I don't think it has to just be men are the ones doing things on Valentine's Day. I think it's also okay. And I think it's actually good that it be something that is more of a reciprocal thing, especially since we supposedly live in a society where men and women are equal. That's just my take. But anyways, I do want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I'm going to need to log off because I do have somewhere to go, but thanks for hanging out. And definitely stay tuned for upcoming lives and videos that I have on this channel. And we'll talk later. Bye.